Pat?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, excellent. You're under her tonight.
How is everyone?
Good.
Martin?
All right.
We're good.
Live streaming now too?
What?
So it appears that we have everyone. For those in virtual land, how is the volume? Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
How about me from
Yes.
across the room?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
Good.
Yes.
We're test driving a new system tonight. Obviously, you can see we got the three prettiest we could find to put on the front page there of the screen. They're up in the corner. Mr. Kinchu, Mr. Groft, and Mr. Crayville are on television right now, so people can actually see them through the video camera. And obviously, the people there can also see my screen through the live stream. So they'll get the best of both worlds now, hopefully. So we'll start tonight's meeting, and we'll go right through the agenda, and then we'll get into the assistant superintendent's report, and then we'll go into executive session to talk personnel tonight. So with finance, obviously, we'll look to pay any bills that we have, along with looking at the monthly reimbursement voucher for school lunches. For those that aren't aware, the state just extended a waiver that right now all of our students, regardless of their socioeconomic status, are getting free lunch until December 31st. Yeah, that was something that we could do. We could opt in as a district, and we decided to do that. We felt the right thing to do for our students. So irregardless of whether they were free or reduced or they were regular lunch, at this point, every student goes through our line and gets a free lunch now in our school district. The only ones that pay any money would be the high school students if they choose to get anything extra, a second lunch, a water, another type of snack or something. That would just go off the account, but everything but the main entree lunch is free now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that's a program that's offered and we get reimbursed through the federal government through that program. So we opted into it also, but it's good for our students. Plus, in addition, we are running 2 days a week, a pickup curbside service for our students that are in online school, for those families to come and pick up lunches as they need them and breakfast for their families. So we're offering that also. Pickup, I believe, is Tuesdays and Thursdays. At high school.
I cannot hear him.
It's Tuesdays and Thursdays, so it's the same group.
No.
Well, it's I believe it's I don't know. I'll double check on, and I'll get back to the board with the days. I know Ashley Sprinkle was taking care of that, but I know we were looking at doing a day A and a day B to offer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they can pick them up.
I thought they took them home with them.
Down here, it's a red.
They are. We're offering both.
Okay.
So
Right
they
there.
are still putting them into
Right, that button.
at the end of the day, the kids are picking up and taking them home with them for the next day. In addition, though, for our students that are in the CVOA, we are offering lunch for them, and that's pickup also for them. They need it. Ways and means. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip over number 1 because that's going to be Dr. Perry here in a second. But we'll recognize number 2, and that's a donation for engraving from Scott and Company Fine Jewelers, valued at $300. And they were nice enough to, for next week, we have a retirement ceremony, and we got new plates this year. And Scott and Company, they were nice enough to engrave the names of the employees on the plates for them at $300. So that was a very nice donation and very welcome by Scott and Company. Also, we had a donation from Chuck Tullis of Utz Quality Foods for supplying individual snack bags for the summer faculty and staff, valued at $60. So what we did at the end of the summer, I bought lunch for all our maintenance and custodians just to thank them for all their hard work. And normally we do a hodgepodge of everything, but we couldn't this year because of all the new, I guess, restrictions in place with COVID. So they were nice enough to donate snack bags of chips and popcorn, everything for our faculty and staff so that to help, make sure that they got more than just the pizza I bought for them. So it was very well appreciated by everybody. Also like to recognize Joe Biken of Ring Container. He purchased 2 pedestrian crossing signs that we're going to put in McSherrystown, valued at $500 to help with the crossing guards and put them out in the streets so people are aware of what's going on. Also like to recognize the Wareheim Foundation. They recently just wrote us a check for $179,000. I'm sorry, $179,100 to match a donation that was contributed from many different organizations, companies, along with Conewago Enterprises for the completion of the CTC Center, the upgrades that we did. Also in that, we'd like to recognize the work completed by Francis E. Clunk Electrical Contractor for the improvements and upgrades that they provided in the Colonial Career and Technology Center. Also like to recognize Advanced Industrial Services, AIS, for the improvements and upgrades to the Colonial Career and Technology Center. And AIS came in and they actually moved all the machinery and equipment and then balanced it for us also once it was moved. So service that was not easily done, but they made it look easy in 2 days' time. It's pretty amazing. Also recognize the work completed by Walton and Company for the improvements and upgrades to the Colonial Career and Technology Center. And they did all the work on the welding center. Well done by them, and it was great. The other day we were out and about, I was out and about walking through, and it was so neat to be in the CTC Center. There were kids welding, there were kids in the electrical engineering part working, there were kids in the construction trades working, and it was just, everyone was busy. It was awesome to see. There wasn't a kid standing around that wasn't doing something. And that was way different than last year because you had to wait to weld till you got your turn on the machine. 20 booths being used, sparks flying, smell was in the air, someone was getting some work done. It was pretty awesome. So, and that was all done really, like I said, through the work of Walton and Company, AIS, and Francis E. Clunk, along with the Conewago Enterprises. Can't say enough for everything they did. Thank you to Andy Brew, thank you to Pete and Trevor for all their work and everything they did to make that happen. I know we were able to take a look at it, I believe, the last time we were here, and I think it's turned out fabulous. We plan to, myself and the Foundation for Education, we plan to reach out to all these organizations, invite them in for just a private tour with myself and the Foundation President, Krista Hayward, take them around, thank them, and just show them what our kids are actually doing now with all the hard work that was done this summer. So, I'd like to recognize and recommend approval for the letter of agreement between True North Wellness Services and Conewago Valley School District regarding student assistance program for drug and alcohol services. Anytime that we have some students that may or may not make some poor choices, we offer these counseling services through True North, and it's a great benefit for those families. And then I'd like you just to refer to Board Policy 201. As we look into the 2021-2022 school year, give you an update on changing of Board Policy 201. You'll be able to see the changes that we made in that document up on the screen. First thing is for first graders. Beginners are students entering the lowest grade of the primary school above the kindergarten level. The board establishes the district's entry age for beginners as 6 years by September 1st in accordance with state law and regulations. And then for kindergarten, this is really new for kindergarten. In years past, the start date or the entry date for kindergarten was the first day of school. The first day of school varied every year, so there was no established date. So moving forward, starting with the class of 2021-2022 for kindergarten, the board establishes that the district's entry age for kindergarten has to be 5 years old by September 1st of that year. So in accordance with state law and regulations, students meeting the district's entry age for kindergarten must be registered by the first day of school. They're already in the district.
Are there any exceptions?
Are there any exceptions? No, not right now.
Even for first grade, if they've already completed kindergarten at a different district?
Oh, well,
and
that
they
would be
still have to
different.
meet the age? Okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I'm
that
just
would be-
wondering if that
Yeah, no,
was,
that would be different. If a student's transferring to us from another school and has already completed kindergarten,
then they would
no,
already qualify.
they would
Okay.
already qualify,
That's what
because
I
that would be
just
the
wanted to
next
make
grade
sure.
when they register.
Mhm.
This is for
Brand
anyone
new
like,
student.
anyone that's not going to kindergarten, but is coming to school, because technically kindergarten is a non-compulsory grade.
Right.
So you could wait and start your kid in first grade if you choose to. So we just have that in place. The other piece of it is obviously we wanted to establish a set deadline date. We are seeing more and more parents requesting testing and other things because technically their child their birthday was August 28th or August 29th, but we started school August 17th. So they missed it, but realistically, if we were in any other district, they would have been eligible to start. We were the only district that did not have an established pure cut date, for whatever reason. So this puts us in line with the rest of Adams County now. Okay. Any questions on 201 or any concerns? And then the rest of these, I'm going to let Dr. Perry, this is kind of part of her superintendent's report also, but I'm going to let her go through all these new policies and updates that deal with Title IX. So Dr. Perry, why don't we start first with the resolution that Mr. Groft will have the honor of signing next week, assuming we approve it.
Okay, thank you. So some background information on Title IX, that this law was approved to move forward back in May 2020. And as part of that approval of this updated Title IX law, it officially goes into effect August 14th, 2020. This resolution kind of snuck up on me in particular, as well as our Title IX team. And what this resolution suggests is that a governing body would essentially pre-approve this resolution stating that we would follow the guidelines as set forth by the law while other board policies are under review. So we're doing these concurrently, but we do need to have a board resolution on file that the board would agree that we would be following all the rules and guidelines as set forth by Title IX, which is sexual harassment and discrimination, with the updated language in the interim while we are convening and reviewing these policies that you see on the agenda that will come to you September 21st. So that's the purpose of Board Resolution 112. So the long and short of it also is that part of the regulations implies that you need, I'm sorry.
You want me back in the resolution first?
Sure, if you don't mind, thank you. The one thing that I did not mention is that it needs to identify who those would be responsible, and this needs to be communicated publicly, frequently, and consistently, throughout the time that we're under the guidance of this Title IX regulation. And that is, acknowledging that I would be the compliance officer and the Title IX coordinator, specifically working with students. Mr. Josh Lovejoy would be the Title IX coordinator for employees. So by differentiating those two roles, if we were ever to find ourselves in that situation with a student and a teacher, we have two separate personnel dealing with these kinds of issues. So also you would be identifying us to serve and function in those roles. We do need to list our contact information, email address, telephone number, mailing address, and make that available publicly on our website, which we did as of August 14th. Dr. Ruderstill also followed that up with an email to faculty, staff, and families, identifying who we were in the interim of our policies being updated.
Mrs. Beans is going to be happy, but I found it there. Our address is not Elan Road, it's Berlin Road.
Berlin, yes.
First policy, no?
Yep, that's the resolution. Then moving on, we have a series of policies that with the updated Title IX requirements, you will see there are highlighted areas that there are recommended changes. So these board policies are presented to us for consideration through the PSBA, which is who we've used for a number of our policies in the district. The areas that are bold-faced in black are the updated language that speaks specifically to Title IX, essentially prohibiting sexual harassment, which is a form of unlawful discrimination on the basis of sex. Such discrimination shall be referred to throughout this policy as Title IX sexual harassment. And that is true throughout all of the other policies that will be coming forward. But it is important because that is a slight change. Inquiries regarding the application of the Title IX to the district may be referred to the Title IX coordinator, to the Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights in the United States Department of Education, or both. So that's why it's critically important that our names are included as contact, no matter which policy anybody from our community would access. This type of language you'll see is threaded, through all of our policies. Essentially, it also says that the district does not discriminate in any manner, which we have previously said, but it is specifically including the terminology of sexual harassment in any education program or activity. And so that's also important because this does apply to students and faculty outside of the school walls. So it does also, they are covered as part of any activity that they participate in with us. There needs to be a very clear way in supporting materials for how those incidents or concerns can be reported. So we've also included those. And you can see that there's significant language in the bold that talks about how we go ahead and we file reports and prevent any forms of retaliation for doing so. So that's the nature of policy 103, which specifically relates to affecting students through discrimination and Title IX sexual harassment.
How far out of the school premises does that carry? The kids walking home after school, does that carry on to the mile and a half that?
It does, port to port.
That's right.
So when you look at a school, like we are technically responsible what they call port to port, meaning when a kid leaves his door until he gets back into his door, we are responsible. So if anything would happen on the walk home, anything would happen on the school bus, we are responsible.
Just wanted to make that clear.
For policy 104, this is very similar language, but policy 104 is referring to our staff. So it's very much the same or similar language that talks about, what it is and how we're not able to discriminate for any reason. Also, no one is affected, whether or not they're a part of a collective bargaining agreement or not. So all of our employees are covered under this particular policy, and with that have the protections herein. And also it continues on for how reports are to be made and that no retaliation would occur. Also, there's disciplinary procedures when reports allege Title IX sexual harassment. So there is some very specific language in there that is new, that has not occurred in previous policy. I'm sorry? Under definitions, it is correct. Yeah, we double checked that. It's an
It does
A&T
look-
instead of an
No,
ENT. Yeah.
Okay.
It does look
Yes.
funny.
I know, we checked
That was
that.
my bad.
Yep.
No, that's okay. We appreciate that.
That's- I looked at it twice too. I'm like, is
I
it right?
know.
Did the
Those
reporting
words.
change? Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're fine.
So there is updated reporting forms that PSBA recommends that actually allow for more specifics and the timing. So that it's really just requiring more detail and specific quotes and dates and that sort of thing than traditionally was required under Title IX. So those were the two main policies upon which all of the other policies are born. So we have policy 247, which is a corollary policy. So what they mean by that is there's elements of our hazing policy that Title IX can be included. So many people, when they think of Title IX, they think that it's an athletic law, you know, and now this expands far beyond athletics, but it certainly has its root in hazing. So they define hazing, aggravated hazing, organizational hazing, and then they also define student activity or organization, bodily injury, serious bodily injury. But then they do include that Title IX sexual harassment and other discrimination as part of that hazing policy. So as part of hazing, you're sexually harassed, your personal space is violated, and so there's a lot of examples of what that might look like. And that's why it's called a corollary policy. But we did, you know, remove, for example, the areas in red that are strike through, that the enforcement, the distribution of written policy, we would prefer to put that in the publication of our handbooks, verbal instructions to coach or sponsor at the start of the seasoning program. So there are minor changes in that regard. The majority of the changes in our policy do occur in that foundational policy of 103 and 104.
Dr. Perry, on the two that got deleted, or assembly. So we used to have more extracurricular activity at the beginning of the year in assembly. I remember this was one of the topics that was covered. So are we doing away with that assembly?
No, we can. It's just we're not making it a policy requirement. It's particularly important during COVID-19, for example, when we can't guarantee that we can actually assemble students for that purpose. So that's something that we can certainly come back to once we move through the pandemic. But these are things that, you know, we would not, for example, typically distribute written policy to students. Board policies, that's not a practice that we would consider reasonable. The presentation of the assembly, it doesn't mean we can't do it. It just means we're not guaranteeing that it would happen that way for the presentation of this material.
Okay. And then the other question is for a new coach or sponsor. How did they come up to speed on their?
It was like you and I had a conversation before the board meeting. You see the segue into this is outstanding. So that's a great question. So all staff will be trained. So regardless if they're a coach, if they're an advisor or a faculty member, administration, lunch lady, we will have training for everyone within our school community for Title IX. It is a requirement by law that everyone is trained on, you know, how to observe, how to report, you know, what are the steps, what does it actually look like, and to define that. So any and all of our activity sponsors and or coaches would be included as part of that training.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would say, like down at college, I have to do training 3 sessions every year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's covered. Everybody.
Okay. Any questions about hazing policy updates? With that, because of all of the changes, it is recommended by staff and leader that 248 would need to be removed. And so that would be a recommendation that we would retire that particular policy as it is otherwise covered in policy 103 for students. So the 248 is unlawful harassment, but all of the contents of 248 unlawful harassment as it currently stands would now be contained in our updated 103 policy. So we would retire 248 and it would reside in 103. So just because I'm jumping to the next number, I wanted, you know, to bring that up. So then the next policy then would be policy 249, which encompasses, again, it's a corollary policy talking about bullying and cyberbullying. So to your point, Mr. Graft, about the question about when does this cover, even in the world of the internet, it can also apply through cyberbullying, which is covered through policy 249. Predominantly, the cyberbullying has been an update as a definition in this particular policy that may also constitute crime of cyber harassment. So that's a very, very new statement that's showing up in board policy, and as such may be subject to criminal prosecution where appropriate. The board directs the instances of bullying or cyberbullying to be referred to law enforcement. So it does give the board the power to move forward in very significant cases outside of the school day with harassment or cyber harassment that's happening at home. Through our
Is there anything on these that it can be regulated or
We do that,
observed?
yeah. So our web filter catches a lot of this, along with, we use a program called BARK that monitors our students, all their Google activity. Parents
Get a
can,
report every week.
parents can get a report every week from BARK of what the kids are doing on Google Chrome. What we'll do is with the BARK piece, I'll have my technology department put together a flyer that we can send out to parents as a reminder. I know we did that last year, but I'll do it again this year to sign up for BARK. It's a great feature. As an administrator, I get a weekly report on all our kids, K through 12, and what they're doing on Google Chrome, what they're writing in emails, what they're doing in Google Docs, you name it. It monitors the students, everything they do.
And the kids know this?
Yes, we let them know.
Now, of course, that is only on the school computers, or the school.
As long as they're logged into,
But-
as long as they're logged into their school account, we can
Right.
monitor. If they're logged into a private account, we
Yeah,
can't monitor.
if they're doing it through this, then we have no control.
Well, no, but as long as if they're signed into Google, you could see what they're
Oh,
doing.
okay.
And
So
there
we
is
do
something
have some
parents can
control.
put.
We
Yes,
do have some control. but
yes, and
not
we
total.
have, on these weekly reports that we get as they pop up, they're sent to principals. Principals look at them. Our technology department vets it also, determine if it's a fake positive or it's something we need to pursue. And there have been a few students, unfortunately, that have had their privileges taken away for a bit as a I guess, punishment for the choices they made.
Okay.
And we've caught a few kids, I guess, the way to communicate now is not just through email. They use the Google Doc and share it, and they start having, it's almost like a text message without the text through the Google Docs. And we're able to monitor that also. And it just, the BARK is set up to pick up on keywords, and those keywords then send an alert to us right away that something may not be right.
Okay. And last but not least, I just wanted to draw your attention to all of the consequences for violation of that policy. So all of those are consequences that currently exist. Counseling within the school, parental conference, loss of school privileges. These are all the types of things that we would do anyway. But the policy is being specific for our community that these are potential consequences should children decide to engage in this behavior. Moving on then to policy 317.1. So this is an updated policy under the title of educator misconduct. So this particular policy is necessary specifically to call out the Title IX sexual harassment and other discrimination in this policy. So there's very, very little change other than adding that boldface paragraph as Dr. Russo scrolls down, and it's specific to calling it out about how the Title IX coordinator would be promptly notified, and then I need to respond to allegations provided and the other such policies for discrimination. So that's the main change in this 317.1 for educator misconduct. So along those same lines that, with the differences between the students and the educators, this is something that we're going to have to continue to do a lot of work to include this in teacher handbooks, for example, to update all of our teacher handbooks to ensure that this language is a part of that, as well as our student conduct. So we're going to have to do a lot of work with the principals to ensure that that specific language matches our current policy. So it previously did. All of our handbooks previously matched our board policies, so now we'll need to update those also. And last but not least, policy 824 is a policy maintaining professional adult and student boundaries. So the predominant change here is legitimate educational reasons that the educators are speaking or interacting with students would be related to teaching, counseling, athletics, extracurricular activities, treatment of the student's physical injury, et cetera, to the adults assigned duties. So that was a new word that was added. So the expectation is that our employees are engaging in interacting with students within the scope of their assigned duties. And that was the major change in that policy, other than also including electronic communications. For the purposes of this policy, electronic communication shall mean communication transmitted by means of an electronic device, including to but not limited to telephone, cell phone, computer network, personal data system, or pager. So it does call that out. And then a legitimate educational reason may justify deviation from the rules regarding communication or methods for maintaining professional boundaries set out in this policy. So, so essentially we're trying to make that policy stricter by adding language, and then again, adding the Title IX coordinator title and that process of the 15 days that we will work through the process of investigation and following discovery of such misconduct that would come forth in a complaint. Otherwise, the other changes were simply language changes that did not change the integrity of the policy in any way. It's just updated language. So those are all the policies, around Title IX that will be coming to you next week for your approval.
Basically, that would be numbers 11 through 11 through 18 on the ways and means.
Yeah.
Any other questions in regards to Title IX for Dr. Perry, our newly appointed Title IX Coordinator and Compliance Officer? I gladly handed that title over to her.
I was just going to ask, does he give you everything to do? I mean, then can I ask what he does?
Oh my goodness, I could tell you what he does.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Since you're taking all the duties over, that maybe next year at his review,
We'll come up with some new ones.
yeah. No, this is great. Do we need to call that out during the meeting, or just as we're saying numbers 1 through?
You can make reference to, we can ask Brooke, say next week, if we want to just make reference to the fact that there's some new policy that refers to Title IX. And it'd be items number 11 through 18 if we wanted to. I'm sure
Okay.
she could probably guide us on that.
And I
To let people know that we're serious about this.
Well, and we have it posted on our website now.
And I would also bring that up as part of my report also.
Okay.
So
Well, then maybe we can just do it there.
Yeah.
We just need to call out to let people know that we are serious about, the bullying and anything that can come down that would affect their education or employment. Well, be both.
Outside of that, some people might be surprised that we didn't already have something like this.
Well,
yeah,
we
and I
did.
think that that's a great point, because we do It's just that the law was
Right.
updated and
Changed,
changed. Yeah, and I do feel like that there is this heightened sense of awareness because of these changes and how strong the language is in the policy. So I think that will be good for the community to know if they didn't already know. We've always had a discrimination policy on our email, on any kind of distributable district materials. But it does now call that out a little bit more than it has in the past.
Okay, I think that would be a
Sure.
good point to bring up, and let people know just how serious this is.
Because I know that, well, like I said, this existed because in my role as assistant superintendent / compliance officer, when I had that, I did have to deal with 2 or 3 cases that came to me, that were complaints, whether it be faculty on faculty or even student faculty that I dealt with and had to investigate. And we had the process procedure that I know I shared everything with you, that you have that also.
Yes.
Write that down for you next year. Good, that's,
Moving on, number 19. Recommend authorizing Jenna Steiner to attend the Science of Reading sponsored by the LIU on September 23rd from 8:30 to 3. That's a virtual conference at no cost to the district. So she won't need a sub and she won't need to travel anywhere because it's a virtual conference. Also to have Jenna Steiner attend Soundwall sponsored by the LIU on January 19th from 8:30 to 3:30. Again, virtual conference at no cost. And both of those conferences, she'll be here on campus doing those virtually. So it's not a day, you know what I mean? She's around doing that. Recommend authorizing Dr. Corbett to attend various restorative practices and becoming a restorative practice licensed trainer, sponsored by the LIU. That started actually September 10th and 11th, and then October 5th and 6th, 19th, 11th, 27th, 29th, and that's 8:30 to 4:30, and it's via Zoom or in person at the IU, no cost to the district, other than the cost that is $33,500. That's covered by a grant. So for the training. Also authorizing Dr. Corbin, Marcy Rickroad, Aaron Lambert, and Margot Singer to attend the PBIS coaching series sponsored by the Lincoln Intermediate Unit on November 3rd, December 1st, January 21st, and February 10th from 8:30 to 11:30 via Zoom at no cost to the district. That's our ways and means. Property and supplies. Numbers 1, 2, and 3 are the same, and actually 4 are all the same organization. And it's the Center for Youth and Community Development with Sammy Schlusser as representative to use the Conewago Valley Township Elementary School Gymnasium, Conewago Valley Intermediate School Gymnasium, New Oxford Elementary Gymnasium, and the middle school cafeteria. It's an after-school program that helps kids with homework. And so while we don't have a lot going on, we wanted to make sure that we offer something for our students to help them. So we have the after-school Y program that still houses some kids, and this will be the other one that houses some kids. Now, both talking to the Center for Youth and Community Development and talking to Sammy Schlusser, she's aware that she must follow our health and safety plan along with our protocols, and that if she exceeds any limits or does not follow those, that unfortunately that will mean a removal from our district. She's well aware of that, and we've talked about that. They're just very grateful for the fact that we're allowing them to still offer this. It's a free program for our kids. So that's the other piece of it, which is nice. It doesn't cost anything and allows our kids to go in. And they will be doing that Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for 3 days after school for our kids. So our A and B kids, at least will, you know what I mean, each get a day, along with their A kids getting an additional day right now. Obviously, our K through 3 kids will get every day because they're here every day.
Dr. Rudis, so with the COVID, how's the attendance in the before and after school?
With the Y program, I'm not quite sure, to be quite honest with you. I'll have to look into that. For this one will not start until board approval on September 21st, and their first day will be the 22nd. So right now, though, I know New Oxford Elementary, Mr. Cobb talked again about making sure while you're in a large area, still need to be spaced apart 6 feet, using the cafeteria tables and so forth, and the gymnasium. But they'll have, right now, I think they have about 35 kids signed up between the 2 days. So it's definitely a resource that our younger ones use. Our middle school, probably not as prominent, but definitely, K through 3 and 4 through 6, it's used quite heavily. Last year, I think at one point, they might have had 60 kids between the two programs at the elementary alone that were utilizing the free resource. Of course, that was pre-COVID. So. That takes us into personnel. Before we get into personnel, I'm going to let Dr. Perry talk a little bit more on her reports tonight. So let me get back up here and I'll go to Assistant Superintendent. Go ahead, Dr. Perry. You already talked Title IX, so let's kind of just share with the board about our online academy that has now been a week,
Yes.
1 day in.
Yes, yeah. So we're approximately 1 week in, and as you can imagine with anything new, we are still working through some kinks with technology and that type of thing. And there are preliminary materials that teachers provided at our elementary levels, our middle school level for pickup as part of our iPad pickup the Friday before we started. Not all materials have been picked up, so we're working collaboratively with the families to schedule a time to ensure that their children have the materials that they need, to get started off well. We have been making phone calls. We've followed it up with letters. We do have our teachers in place, so we have approximately 44 teachers that are already reaching out and interacting with our children in our community, serving approximately 230 students that we have with us through the online academy. So we couldn't be happier to include them with that. So we do appreciate the patience of our community as we did this very, very quickly. And it is amazing how our community pulled together in order to actually pull this off. And the teachers are in there to win it every day with our kids, working collaboratively with their principals and me and Dr. Rudiso. It truly, truly has been a collaborative effort. And there's one position at this point that has not been filled for a spring course. So we feel really confident that that position will be filled. But like I mentioned, those 44 positions have been filled, prior to the start of school on September 8th. So we couldn't be more pleased and happy, that our teachers said yes and are joining us in this crazy journey to do what we believe is truly best for our students in Conewago Valley. With that, I have been working collaboratively with the high school administration, because as we started to conceptualize what this would look like for a high school student, we realized very quickly that not all students would be able to earn all of the credits that would be required for graduation. So Dr. Bowman, working collaboratively with his faculty and staff, and counseling and school counselors, really were working collaboratively with us to help us try to come up with a master schedule of sorts for a high school student, to ensure that their 4-year journey with us would be one that would earn them the Conewago Valley diploma. So we're very, very happy and grateful to Dr. Bowman and his work with the faculty and staff and counselors to make that happen. So we have been able to figure out some strategic ways where teachers could work with students in the online academy during the school day through creative scheduling, and just how, because we're on that hybrid schedule, that it does open things up a bit for class sizes. So there's a lot of creative problem solving there. And with that, there are 2 courses that came forward for recommendation for approval that I'll be bringing to you next week. One is the iPads for art, and the title of that, let me get that right here. I think I just deleted it. Apologize. It's an art for iPads course. And then the other course that we would be bringing forward specifically for the Conewago Valley Online Academy would be a family and consumer science seminar course. So those are two courses we do plan to offer through the high school, through the online academy, which is taking our rich curriculum, but putting it in such a ways and a mean that makes sense in this online academy environment. Thank you for pulling up the course description. This is the creme de la creme, what, like I was talking about with that master schedule. Part of that master schedule is to have a course selection guide. So the high school faculty work collaboratively as well as the school counselors administration to make this happen. So this is really great. This is something that potentially we can share with families as we grow and expand this program. So it's really neat to see all of this infrastructure come together so early in the game. So I do appreciate their hard work.
There's the art course.
Yep, thank you. The delay. Yeah, so originally when we were conceptualizing this, we were thinking that we would only offer 2 just for this first year, and then we can add additional electives later. What we weren't taking into consideration, however, is that some students may have already had those courses. So then that would leave our students without the ability to access an additional elective, which would be required for graduation. So, we were able to fix that pretty quickly, and I couldn't be more pleased. So it's a great opportunity. At our last meeting, we shared with you a preliminary framework of what a website might look like for Conewago Valley School District. And so we're really pleased that we didn't know at the time who our faculty would be. There was a lot of unknowns at that point, and you saw the very bare minimum of that framework. So we are happy that this is presentable. It is on our website. So if you go to our district website under buildings, CVOA is now technically a building where you can access and take a look at our website. And we have included as much information as we can without it being overwhelming for families. So as we would with any other website that we have, we do have our CVOA calendar. We have our grade level bands, which are great because it supports each grade level, and then also will allow the opportunity for students and their families to put a face together with a name of who they're in communication with during the week. So we do have that listed, as well as contact information and what learning management systems would be utilized at each grade level band. We also have our online academy expectations for students, in each of these grade level bands, what synchronous and asynchronous instruction is, which we talked about a little bit the last time, and the co-curriculars, as well as, the other applications and platforms that our teachers would be using to engage in learning activities with our students. So we're really excited about that. So through each grade level band, it's the same kind of platform. And then we move on to student expectations. What are our student expectations in this type of an online learning environment? And where we are right now, just for clarification, is that this is not an asynchronous program where everything is uploaded and the students are on their own. We really built this and designed this to be a parallel experience for students as if they were face-to-face in school with us to the maximum extent feasible, which we know when our faculty are teaching during the school day, that's impossible, to spend that much face-to-face time. But there are embedded touch-based times, office hour times, that the teachers are reaching out to the students and families, to create synchronous groups together as a class or small groups, for a reading group or a math group. So they're quite skilled in figuring out what would work best for that group of students that they are teaching, and we love that. We don't want to take away that human component and that teacher-student relationship under the circumstances. So we're really proud of how this particular program is being distributed, to our community.
What kind of where does this online kind of fall? Is it mostly, kindergarten on up to, say, seventh and eighth? Are there many high school kids, or is it just a wide range of?
It's K-12. We originally, we're talking about, should this just be a high school experience? But the data were suggesting we needed to offer this K-12, and we did.
I mean, right now,
So
the
right
What's the
now,
enrollment?
yeah,
In
what's
terms
the
of
enrollment?
numbers,
enrollment is, where does that lie?
kindergarten, I would say, is probably the smallest,
Okay.
core group.
We have about 9-10 students in
Yeah,
kindergarten.
it's a very small group. And then I would say 11th grade is probably our largest. So,
Okay.
11th graders are 10 is a bigger class than I was expecting or anticipating.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising me.
Yeah, but definitely it is. And then the rest are around 20,
So
21.
class sizes range anywhere from 10, I think, up to 25.
That's
depending.
correct. Yep.
Okay,
So it's a low number overall. It kind of falls within line for the most part of what our average class size is. Obviously with kindergarten being the exception of 10.
But it spans all the grades, like there's no,
No, we
I
have,
wouldn't say there's a huge bubble somewhere.
No. Yeah, it's just a slight variance, but we do have interest in all grades. So it's obvious that this was an excellent move for us to move in this direction. That tells us that we have a need. Even so much so that I feel like, if we would open the floodgates beyond that registration deadline, we would have many, many more. We just, at this point, cannot accommodate those numbers as we're, just getting this up and off the ground and really trying to support our teachers as they're navigating hybrid schedules, which are new to them, for example, 4 through 12, in addition to doing CVOA. So we really needed to keep those numbers as manageable as possible. But generally speaking, we have a nice, healthy start that I feel like we can be successful with. Very happy about
That's
that.
awesome.
We do talk about the expectations for CVOA attendance. This is an area of gray for many online platform schools. And so, we do have a tentative attendance plan. We're talking and working with teachers and the principals about what does this actually look like when we do it, is it through a Google form that we're maintaining our attendance? Is it through Schoology, for example, grades 7 through 12 that we would be, is it through Skyward that we're taking attendance? So there's a lot of questions and conversation that we're working through, but essentially we're looking at attendance as a week, so as a week experience in the matrix. Are they signing in to their learning management system, which is Seesaw, Google Classroom, and Schoology? Are they engaged? Are they submitting assignments? And so we use this matrix to help us make that attendance decision, because this is a little different than a day-by-day attendance, because we're not asking the students to check in at the same time as if they were here with us face-to-face. So it does tend to be a little bit more subjective, but we can say if you don't have your materials, if you're not signing in, it's obvious you're not here. And so then that would trigger what we would normally do face-to-face is we would bring the team together. We would work with the family to find out what's impeding their child from participating, try to remove those barriers. For example, maybe they haven't yet picked up their iPad, so we need to make sure that we schedule a time for them to have their iPad, their materials. We need to make sure that they have internet. So there's a lot of those meeting the needs that we're in the process of taking care of right now. But the attendance will be something that will evolve as we figure out the best means to keep track of that for our students. The plan then is that, children are held accountable. That's always a question, that if children will not be doing school through this means and mechanism, we need to reach out to them and talk with them about what other educational opportunities might perhaps be better suited for them. So perhaps we should talk to them about bringing them back face-to-face if they require more structure or more guidance from their teacher. We'll have to work with the families in this particular situation. It's not an option to not participate. It's not an option to not do school. So there is rigor attached to this program. Again, we're aligning it to the high level of rigor and our curriculum standards, and our expectation is that students are meeting those educational expectations from their teachers.
When we get to the spring, current winds are blowing, there won't be a wait of the state or the national testing. So will the online students, will their numbers be included in the Conewago Valley performance?
Yes,
So staying on top of that is going to be
yes,
important so that
absolutely.
they don't fall behind.
That is exactly correct. Yes. Yeah. And that is the goal of those teachers, is to ensure that they don't, to the best that we can. Absolutely.
Now, in the spring, let's say this COVID thing does turn around a little bit, they would be allowed to come back into the building. Am I correct?
Yes. If the space within the guidelines that are set forth, if all of a sudden it's no longer a consideration and we don't have to maintain social distancing and all of our safety guidelines that we have in place through our health and safety plan, if for whatever reason it's determined that we don't any longer have to follow those, then certainly it may potentially be a case that we can't accommodate that. You know, if we would just have to look at that on a case by case basis to see if we're able to accommodate within how we have our schools presently structured. Yeah, good question.
I mean, this is Eric. Moving forward, or there will be certain standards that the students have to meet, certain GPAs that if they're not, like you said, that's a growing thing that we'll work on as we proceed with CVOA. But if they are consistently not meeting standards on test scores and stuff like that, are they going to still be allowed to be a participant in CVOA?
Yeah, that's a great question. That question has actually been coming up, you know, and it's certainly something that administration is talking about, that, you know, at what point, and that's where my point comes in, that we have to work with the families to find that best placement for the students. And so I do feel like that, you know, that is a potential for sure, that, you know, we would have to look at that because something is not working. There's very little supports that we can put in an online academy outside of what we're currently doing through gifted education, our 504 plans, our other related services. You know, that is very difficult to have teams come together for an online student the way that we can when we're in school. So, you know, we would have to certainly look at that, and we are. Yeah.
At least we have a better chance with it being an internal.
That's right.
Instead of, you know, the Connections Academy or whatever.
Correct. Yeah.
Sending students back that are not prepared.
Right.
So.
Absolutely.
So as we look at that, Dr. Perry, that may be another policy that.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Admissions policy. Yeah, for sure. Mhm. Yeah.
Do you feel, I know we're a weekend, do you feel with as quickly as we set this up and what we've seen so far that this is something even outside of COVID and restrictions that we are definitely going to pursue and continuing to offer as
Yes.
an alternative?
Yes, absolutely. And the reason I say that is, you know, it's so important that we're responsive to student learning needs. That's why we're here as an educational institution. This is another way that enables the district to be able to do that. And, you know, Dr. Rudisil and I, when we dream and scheme about things, we're looking at streamlining and creating efficiencies with other things that already exist through our blended academy, through, you know, we're looking for ways that we can expand and pull it in and just re-envision, you know, those other things that we're already doing, all with that eye on how can we better support students in their education. So there's a lot of potential for, you know, for students who are on homebound instruction, for example, that we can still keep them engaged, you know, because it's a district curriculum, because it's not a purchased item that they're on their own, that, you know, if there is a period of time that they have children out due to surgery or whatever, they're healing, and as they're able, they can participate in our education from home.
Right.
If there's an expulsion for whatever reason, we can still be educating them and not have to worry about placing them elsewhere. So I think that there's a lot of positioning that we can do moving forward that's going to help our students. And I'm already seeing that come down the pike, here in a few years, because it will grow and expand as we get better. And we take the feedback from the faculty and our students and our families, that will only help us get better.
I can just see that growing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Especially with everybody being forced to technology now. These kids they're going to be eating up those opportunities.
Yeah. But they need to know it's rigorous. It's not an easy way to get a diploma, so they will earn their diploma from Conewago Valley for sure.
Make sure when you put a survey out there, put a survey out to the students too, because there's a lot of times they do have a voice, whether or not they really either enjoyed the teacher or the setup, the environment around them, because, too many times I feel kids are doing this, some of them slip through the cracks because they're afraid to say, can we do something else? Or can we apply this in a different way? Some kids, receive it faster than others, and I think when you're like, when we're Zooming or we're doing this on, people are afraid to ask questions because it doesn't come across the way it's intended. You understand what I'm saying? Make sure that the kids are, involved in this too, because I believe they will have get an earful if you really wanted to know what they're thinking.
And Dr. Perry, I know you're really good at this. Offering them the prompts on what to ask or how to feedback, because a lot of times we grade us 1 through 5. It's, and sometimes they have so many more words, like he was saying, that given the prompt instead of the A, B, or C would be an amazing way to get great feedback on some of these new things that we could,
Absolutely.
continue to create from.
The last thing that I wanted to share too is that the Conewago Valley Online Academy actually has its own help desk. So it's CVOA help desk at cvcolonials.org. So we're really excited about that that there's a one-stop shop that goes directly and doesn't get lost, within our larger organization. So these are questions and requests that will be specific to our online students. So we are happy that we have that available to students and their families. And so, parents have called us, Dr. Riversell and me, and have asked, who do I contact if I have a question getting into my iPad, so we do keep referring them, to the help desk. So we're very happy about that.
That's just our technology page that has password support, so parents can actually access the web page, click on that. If the child's like, my password doesn't work, there's steps that the kids can take again to help. If they still can't, then obviously they click the button right there. It sends it opens up the email and allows them to email the tech department.
So they can do a self-service first.
Yep. So,
So we are excited about that. As another conversation, a side conversation with the coaches, our new learning coaches, where we have our learning coaches in each building now, as you know, and they are supporting the teachers through CVOA also. So they've added another line item on their job responsibilities to help support the teachers through CVOA. And they are, in this interim helping, just because there are so many requests that are now going directly to teachers, that we need to send them back to the help desk. It's just that beginning, we're working through that process, and they don't know who to ask for to get the correct answers. But, we're also working on a parent site. As you may recall, last spring, we rolled out a parent site to talk about how to utilize the technology at home when we were at home, when the governor closed us down from March through the remainder of the school year. So we are looking to expand that and add a link to this, specifically to the CVO webpage, to help parents navigate this even a little bit more than what we have right here on this district. So that's also coming. That's also coming too for the larger district, and the off chance, and the if or when that we would go remote for whatever reason, that we want to be able to provide parents that support to help their students utilize their technology, whether they're a CVOA student or whether we're remote or whether it's a snow day or whatever the case may be. So the coaches have been really, really invaluable to us since we're building this. I can't overemphasize, the amount of people that it's taken to lift this off the ground. So I just want to acknowledge their help and their support in this also. Also, as you know, that we are required by law to provide special education, gifted, 504 plans, and other related services to all students that participate in the Conewago Valley Online Academy. So we do have those listed there to the degree that these services are offered. So we do have teachers who are identified specifically for special education to work collaboratively with the CVOA teachers. All of these children would also maintain their regular case manager as if they were with us face to face. So they have a support here at school for their paperwork, their IEP development, their meetings, those relationships that are developed with the families will still be there. And then we have people to help support in that online environment, to work with those regular education teachers in the online environment to help make sure and ensure that the students are receiving the benefit of the program to the maximum extent that they can. So we're really excited about that. Gifted education services are actually offered during the school day. So our regular gifted education faculty at each of the levels are supporting our CVOA students also. So that's a shift. We don't have a separate gifted education online academy teacher. And 504s, those service agreements, we need to follow through with them, whether they're face-to-face or whether they're online. So all of their 504 plans, to the degree that it makes sense and is reasonable in the online environment, those 504s are followed. Related services through, for example, in special education, I also wanted to mention our life skills class. Our life skills teacher is live streaming our one online academy student. So that teacher will be working with an online academy life skills student at home. So it's taken a lot of time and energy to make that happen and to help support her with the technology as well as the family. But we are providing that service through CVOA through that means and mechanism, which I'm really excited to see how that
Actually, going very well. I was in the other day
Oh, great.
in the life skills classroom, and they had the iPad set up, and the student was there watching, participating in the class and everything they were doing.
Yeah.
Teacher said it's worked great so far, and that she's been there every day on the dot at 9 o'clock. They give her a break, and she comes back at 11 on the dot, ready to go, and excited to be able to see her classmates and interact with them.
Yeah, so really, really creative problem solving. We've been engaged in, same with ESL. English as a second language. Those services are being provided also with our teacher here through the same means and mechanisms. So we're really excited, but that's what you're able to do when you design your own program as a district. You have access to your resources and to your specialists to be able to help support all students. So we're really, really happy about that. Anything else, Director Rich? So that
That's good.
you wanted to add? Okay, great.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. That was a lot of information that I'm glad we got to. Just to give you guys an update, obviously next Monday, the 21st of September, we will welcome new teachers and honor retirees at the high school cafeteria at 6 p.m. in a socially distanced setting with pre-wrapped dessert and plastic utensils that you may use. But we'd love to have you join. So if you could this week, just please email Mrs. Beans to let her know if you plan on attending. By Friday at the latest, not a big deal, but just let her know if you'll be there at 6 o'clock in the high school cafeteria to honor our retirees from last year. So I do know that there will be one gentleman there that I'm sure will be happy to see you guys if you so choose to show up by the name of Greenhill. But he'll be there along with several others, and then obviously our new teachers. We have about 11 new teachers total.
Yes.
So 11 new teachers to the district. So a chance, their chance to introduce themselves to you, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of our district. So if you're able to make it, please let Mrs. Beans know by this Friday. Just give a quick report on first 3 weeks of school before we get into the paperwork side of things. K through 3. I tell you what, our little guys are tearing it up. So something new that we did this year, the first couple days of school, I assigned district office staff to each building to assist in any way possible with opening day. That included the high school, middle school, and all the buildings. So we were able to get to every building. Somebody was in every building to help assist these kids coming in on an A/B schedule, and every day our little kids. K through 3 has gone really well. The fact that, we have, the rooms that we can socially distance the kids, the teachers have been doing a great job. The kids have been doing a great job. I will say day 1 anyway, I was over at CTE to open up. And normally every year we have the criers that come in with kindergarten, and the kindergartners are crying too, along with parents. And this year, we really, honestly, I might have counted 5 total that might have been crying at all. And I think part of it was we just weren't letting parents in. So they literally had to drop their child off, and the child just went. There was no time to hold on to them. I feel bad saying it that way, but there really wasn't. It was that immediate release and gone. And a lot of times, like I said, sometimes, and I get it, it's I can recall, sending my first one and second one off to kindergarten. Still, it's just a heart-wrenching experience, but it's an exciting one. And but our students are doing really, really well. For the hybrid 4 through 12, Dr. Perry alluded to it. It is a challenge for our teachers. It's twice the amount of work. It's, there's an added component for the online day, and making sure students are checking in, doing what they needed to do, and then taking attendance. But overall, what I'm hearing from teachers in the hybrid model is how they put, I unexpectedly like this, is how they said it. And I said, please tell me more. And they said, I have smaller class sizes. I'm really getting to know my kids on a personal level that I maybe haven't done in the past, especially at the high school level, where they have these classes just come and go. They see them period 1, they don't see them again and again. They're actually getting to know a group of 5 to 10 versus a group of 20 on a personal level, and getting to truly delve down and connect with them on a more meaningful level. They're doing a really nice job with that. And obviously the CVOA, a week and a half in, we knew it wasn't going to be perfect by any means, but I think it's, like to Dr. Perry's credit, it is, I think, better than any other cyber charge school that can offer what we're doing. It's our curriculum, it's our folks teaching. It's not a canned program that just runs through Common Core standards. It's truly preparing our kids that if they come back to us at any time, they're going to be able to pick up right where they left off with CVOA into the classroom, which is key. Want to share with you updates that we had to make to our health and safety plan. Obviously, we approved our health and safety plan August 10th. On August 17th, we received some more information. And then, so as part of that new information, we had to update the health and safety plan. So next week, I'll show you the highlighted parts here. The board will vote on that again, and then Mr. Groff will sign off on it that night, and I'll have the pleasure of resubmitting it to PDE just so they can put another check by our name saying we submitted it. So when you go through, I highlighted the parts that are going to be different. So part of my scrolling as I go through, because I don't want to read everything, all 49 pages to you again. But like I said, I went through and I highlighted the parts that we needed to update due to different mandates and things that have happened.
So just with that compliance and that clarification of the mask order, we put in there that staff and students will follow the PA universal face covering order with embedded breaks throughout the day. If you recall before, we had in there that as long as they were socially distanced at 6 feet and working, they didn't have to have their mask on. But with the new ordinance and the clarification that the state has provided us, we had to update that to reflect that.
Dr. Russo, how many breaks are we giving?
Honestly, I think it depends on the teacher and the class, but I know at the elementary level, K through 3, our kids are getting breaks. And they're probably following like age +2. So if a child's like in kindergarten and they're 6 years old, they're probably teaching for maybe 6-8 minutes and they're giving the kids a break and take the mask off, letting them just kind of, you know what I mean? And then they put it back on. I've seen teachers say, look, at the higher levels, you guys are old enough, you make the determination when you need a break and take it. And they're not getting yelled at for taking that break. I will say this, and I'll sing the praises of our students from K through 12. They have done a wonderful job adapting to this mask ordinance. They really, really have. And I know some do not like it. I know they don't. But I'll tell you what, our high school students, I could not be more proud of our high school and middle school students and the way they've handled this. Our teachers are amazed too. They said to me over and over, our kids are just amazing what they're doing with this. They have really set the bar at a high level, and I applaud them for that because, no one I don't think ever says, hey, let me live my life wearing a mask. And it's not a political statement in any means. It's just, it's just how, we know how people feel about this. But our students have done a tremendous job with it. I know talking to a few of the students, asked them about it, they said, look, I don't like it, but I also realized, to their point, they're like, I don't want to be online every day. I want to be in here. I'm hearing it over and over again from students. I want to be in school. We don't always hear that all the time. But truly to the, they recognize they want to be with their friends. They want to be in that social setting. They want to be normal again, so to speak, and have those activities and everything else. And they recognize it's just something they have to do, and they have done an amazing job. I cannot give enough credit to those students and our staff for everything they're doing with this. They have really stepped up. And then in addition, we highlighted right here on transportation, we just added the word as feasible for 2 per seat. So bus routes will be adjusted to reduce the number of students on the bus, 2 per seat as feasible. State uses the word as feasible, so we figured we would use the word as feasible. And that gives us a little leeway also with some of our transportation routes. And also, again, we just highlighted again about the universal face covering mandate and how it does supersede any of the district yellow or green phase based recommendations that have been made. Again, we just had to make sure that that was there. In addition, originally we were only going to use Google Meet, but we are going to look into Zoom also, and we're pricing out those options right now. And our goal was to provide the district with paid Zoom licenses for more security as we conduct our online meetings.
Does Zoom work better than the Google?
Right now, when you look at both free versions, Zoom, our teachers are a little bit more familiar with Zoom, and they like the platform, the way it adjusts better to be able to see people as you talk and to see yourself also. Google Meet tends to take your image and shoots it up into a corner, and then you kind of lose where you're at with everybody. Google Meet is coming out with all these new features, but it's also part of their enterprise version that you have to purchase. And the problem is they're saying they have all these new features, but they're not coming out till this date or this date or this date. So even if we were to purchase it, we wouldn't have all those features that Zoom already has as we purchase Zoom. Word on the street is Zoom now is starting to branch out. We're going to have a Zoom education, Zoom business. And so the idea is the education will focus on what our needs are on those platforms. So we're in talks right now trying to reduce the cost for a license that we're looking to purchase for Zoom. The other things that we highlighted were right here. And as we start to have potential cases that may or may not happen, staff and students with a fever or symptoms that may be associated with COVID-19 and no known direct exposure to a person with a COVID-19 may return to school when they are asymptomatic and have been fever-free for at least 24 hours without the use of fever-reducing medicine or have confirmation of an alternative diagnosis from a healthcare provider that explains the COVID-19-like symptoms in accordance with the current PDE, public health, and CDC guidance. So what we're seeing right now is 'tis the season, the temperature's starting to change, season's starting to change. We're seeing kids come into school with sinus infections. Well, a side effect of a sinus infection sometimes is a low-grade fever. So what we're saying to students and to our staff, if you have that low-grade fever, don't come in, call your healthcare provider, either get a note from them saying, A, it's a sinus infection and you confirmed it and you're on antibiotics, or if you're fever-free, come back then after you know. So we have an employee in district office that just called me today and let me know that they have a sinus infection. They have a doctor's note saying, yes, I saw them, they have a sinus infection, they're on an antibiotic, they can return to you when they're fever-free for 24 hours. Well, that happened on Friday, they've been fever-free all weekend, they're gonna return. And you know, it's what we're looking at, because obviously a lot of those sinus infections also mirror some of the COVID symptoms also. So that's what we're starting to see. We're seeing more and more, but I'll say again, this is a kudos to our parents. We've had many students out because of this. And kudos to them. They've withheld them. They're following our health and safety guide plan. They're taking their kids to the doctor or to the urgent care, getting that note they need, and then being able to send them back with a peace of mind that they're not putting anybody else in jeopardy. Also, I've been really, really impressed with our community and our parents and how they stepped up to this plan. Also, in addition, it just goes in to talk about what a symptomatic individual child not tested. If they're not tested and they still have these symptoms, the rule is you need to exclude them for 10 days from the symptom onset and at least 24 hours fever-free and improved respiratory symptoms. So if a student is symptomatic and they have these, they're to stay out 10 days, or if halfway through those 10 days, they become fever-free and it's 24 hours, then they could return.
So what does that mean for our attendance policy? Has this been thought about, addressed?
Yeah, so we recognize there's going to be more absences. Along with that, a lot of times all we're asking for is that note or doctor's note.
Well, I just know that the threatening letters have gone out to, certain kids that are already on that immunocompromised list that, parents get aggravated.
That's a system
Totally
thing.
understood from both sides, but I just wondered.
Excuse notes though.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's the problem.
No,
They
and I
don't
do
send
hear
it in.
you, but it's actually something that was brought to me almost immediately when they found out that I was a board member. Because they're like, look, I they were out for this and I know they were out for this, but we had doctor's notes for all of this and they're
That's
taking me
just
to
an
court,
automatic
like,
setting.
And
It's an
that's what I
automatic
was
setting.
wondering if we're
Yeah.
gonna monitor that at all.
We will, and like I said, our assistant principals who usually deal with attendance are looking at all that all the time. So there may be a kid that was out, and let's say they did have symptoms for 10 days. You know what I mean? They're gonna look at that, and we already talked about if they're out for 10 days, is it 10 days or is that one incident? And what we're looking at is, we just need to go back into the system and adjust it then.
Gotcha.
And it would count as one incident versus the 10 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that, like, I'm not saying which way to address it, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no,
that
we're
it
aware
had
of it,
been-
and everyone is.
On the list.
It's just something new that, we're just gonna have more kids out at times, and the idea is not to punish people because of that. Again, just we put language in there about masks for staff are required when in the building, even at 6 feet of distancing is possible. That goes back to that clarification where
we had in there before. If they were 6 feet apart, they didn't have to have the mask on if they were socially distant, but we had to make sure. Again, staff are wearing masks under the order unless expected via the ADA interactive process. So if someone brings in a note from doctor saying they can't have a mask due to a pre-existing condition, if it's a staff member, we look at those and make that determination of what we can do. If it's a student, they go through the 504 process to determine whether or not a mask is necessary. And as that 504 process happens, that list is shared out with building principals, so they're aware of who is kind of coming to their building without a mask on. So they're not attacking them, saying, why don't you have a mask? They know the person, they can recognize that, and they let the teachers know also of who that individual is, so that they're not being harassed.
That's great.
I believe that was the biggest change, was just adding the language in for the mask, because yeah, that was it. So that will be ready and printed for next week, Mr. Goff. And if you're okay, we'll have you sign off on it, and I'll submit it to PDE again one more time. And it may change again if something else changes. Obviously, that's the nature of this. So the last thing on the agenda tonight before we get to personnel, which I know will take some time, is to talk athletics. So start here. And I'll say kudos to Doug Worley, who's put together a plan right now. And the plan that we're presenting tonight, I want to clarify, is the plan that focuses on the current conditions that we have in place. That is 250 people for an outdoor gathering, 25 for an indoor gathering. We know House Bill, that their House Bill passed, and it's sitting on the desk of Governor Wolf. And Governor Wolf is making that decision whether to veto it, sign it, or let's let it go after 10 days, in which case then it would go into effect. Word on the street is that, that we're getting from our constituents, from like for me, from PASA, Pennsylvania administrators, is that Governor Wolf is going to veto this document. We just don't know when he's going to do it. Because technically he has 10 days to sit on it before he makes a decision, which then pushes everything else back, which really puts us in a tough predicament, because until he makes a decision on that, we have to adhere to what's currently in place, and that's the 250 and the 25. If he does veto it, it then goes back to the House. The House will vote on it. Then it will go to the Senate, and the Senate will vote on it. Assuming that both the House and the Senate have a supermajority to vote for it, it will override his veto and it will go into effect. Okay, so tonight when I present this plan, keep in mind this plan is under the current conditions of the 250 and 25. We've added a component at the end there that when I shared it with you today, that if the House bill passes in any way, we're ready to move forward with another plan that you'll see. So what we did today, and to Mr. Kinshew's credit, he did email me back with a few questions. I sent those off to Doug Worley, and I forwarded those answers to you also, and I'll share those with the group then also. So for our opponents that we play, it's going to be expected that all teams attending competition at New Oxford Elementary comply with the following stipulations. They're going to need to perform a health screening on each individual before boarding the bus and prior to departure. Any potential traveler who displays any symptoms will not be permitted to compete and should not travel with the team. They're going to sign a screening acknowledgement form upon arrival to our campus that they did all this. They'll provide a complete roster of all individuals who will be present for the competition. They'll ensure that all team personnel will wear a mask until warm-ups commence. They will keep all team equipment in a designated area and provide water consistent with the district hydration plan. New Oxford training staff will refill coolers if necessary. They'll supervise all team members in the event of inclement weather, to include gathering all gear, wearing face coverings, and moving to a designated area as instructed by the New Oxford staff. All will be physically distanced as possible until cleared to resume play or for departure. And then immediately following the contest, they'll depart campus immediately and head back to their area that they
As a home team, we will perform health screens on all of our students before our student athletes warm up. All student athletes who display symptoms, obviously, they not attend the competition. All game help will participate in health working in the event and wear face coverings through the duration of the event. All team personnel will wear face coverings. Team will remain in designated area. Again, all participants will have their own water bottles and will refrain from sharing. Should inclement weather happen, and force teams to shelter, the Oxford teams will go to their designated area with face coverings on. Should any student athlete exhibit symptoms during the competition, they will be removed, isolated from other athletes, and parents will be contacted to take them home. So officials, any official coming to us, they'll contact the host athletic director and let them know if they're not feeling well, so that in case we have to replace them. They'll also participate in a pre-contest health screening once on campus by the athletic director or game manager. They'll come dressed for competition. And maybe in years past, they come to us not dressed for competition because they used our locker rooms to change. That would not be the case this year. They need to come ready to step out of the car, step out into the field. They need to bring their own personal hydration bottles. They need to wear face coverings until game time. And then, of course, if they choose to wear them during the game, that would be up to the officials. And then immediately following, they need to depart the campus. So sometimes they would stay after and shower and use our facilities. That won't be the case this year. And the big one, spectators. Okay, so right now, here's the challenge we face. Due to the 25-person limit for indoor gatherings, girls volleyball will and spectators. That's where we stand right now. What's happening is volleyball, you're looking at 6 people on a court. So there's 12 right there. You're looking at 2 subs on each bench. So there's 14, 16. You got a coach, 17, 18. You have 2 officials, 19, 20. You have 3 scorers, 21, 22, 23. You have 2 line judges, 25. Mind you, most volleyball teams have about 12 kids on it. So right now, you have 4 kids that are standing outside the hallway in case you need a sub. You need to open the door and say, hey, I need so-and-so to come in. Because you can only have 2 on a bench.
Well, who advises people on this? They mustn't do their homework.
What's that? Who advises?
Who advises people on normal high school athletic numbers for sports teams? I mean, it's crazy. They're around more people.
And you're right, Mr. Blake. We were given numbers though, and the numbers we were given had nothing to do with athletics.
Right.
It was strictly what the governor's mitigation order is right now of 250 outdoor and 25 indoor. That's why we're
right.
needing to see in some more particular guidelines. I think if you saw in the news today also, obviously there was a court case that happened, but also now the PIAA
Right.
is going after the order also. They have their attorneys on it. So this may change within a week or in days, depending how fast things move.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you get into basketball, you have 12 on each team. It's 25, and you can't even have any coaches. You have 1 ref.
No, that's just, winter sports is going to be a whole nother challenge, assuming things don't change. Yeah. So right now, that's what we're looking at volleyball. The nice thing is, I said the nice thing is we do have our live stream up and ready. Our YouTube channel has over 1,000 subscribers, so everything is ready to go. But that presents us another challenge. Running live stream requires workers, which now puts our number up even higher for live stream, which now counts against the total.
Well, if we're looking at volleyball at home, we can consider the balcony 2 separate rooms.
We can, and we thought about that. We thought about putting teams.
We could.
Putting the teams up,
Honestly.
putting like a JV team at one end, but they're saying that nobody can be on wherever the players and the coaches are. You can't have anybody on that side, including the balcony. So then you're going to put 2 teams up in the balcony that we have socially distanced somehow. So Doug's to Mr. Worley's credit,
normally in a volleyball match, you switch sides after each game. There'll be no switching of sides. You pick your side, that's your side you have. So for us, our home side is usually, closest to the athletic wing. So we would take our team, have them in the athletic lobby ready to go. And we would take the other wing where the high school lobby is. That's where the visitors group had to stay. And we'll leave the doors open so that they can watch, see in, and we have to call a sub and so forth. I'm hoping something changes. Wednesday, the athletic directors meet. And,
How much does it cost to plexiglass those balconies and make them separate?
Yeah. But Wednesday, the athletic directors need to share these plans to make sure there's consistency. And if we find that others are starting to push the limit with the indoor, then we'll follow suit with what the York Adams teams are going to do. Football's the next one that's a challenge for us right now. Again, due to the 250 person limit for outdoor gatherings, right now, when we look at a varsity football game, we're saying that the home and visiting team will be allowed a total of 70 players, coaches, and managers total. So if we have 70 players, coaches, and managers, on the other side of the field, they have 70 players, coaches, and managers. So that's 140 people right there at the 250. We're down to 110. We had 25 cheerleaders and coaches to combine. So now we take 25 out of that 110 left. We have 15 game staff and emergency personnel. We take that off that list. We have 55 band members and directors or personnel. That gives us 135 people. That leaves us with 15 spots left over that we can allow, I guess, a fan to come in. But how do you determine of the 15 who gets to come in and watch? Knowing that right now, as it stands, we have 12 seniors on the football team. We have 10 cheerleaders that are seniors, and we have 7 band members that are seniors. So that right there is almost 30 people. 30 people that, we said seniors only get a ticket. We would exceed 15 of those would be left out. Is the problem. Even if we did 2 per ticket, then we're above the 250 limit with bringing in 60 people. And this is the challenge we face. So a proposal that was sent to me today was, do we need to have the band at the game? Because then that eliminates 55, that now all of a sudden we have 70 spots that we can give to those seniors' parents, 2 per ticket, 2 per senior to send to a game. We could have the band perform before as a pregame and then get them out and send them home, and then allow the parents to come in, obviously to watch the game. The issue is no one can be in that stadium until the band exits. And then we got to bring the fans in. And the expectation is if we bring fans in, they're masked, they're socially distanced, and to Mr. Worley's credit, he's already gone through the stadium. He's marked off the spots where people can sit on every row, has a diagonal, so it's a triangulation. We're ready to go if we can, but so,
It's absurd.
thoughts for the board are, what would you like us to try to pursue the pregame to allow fans to attend the football game? Or do you feel the band should be there for the game to play and support like they have done in the past?
The point of the band, the 2 points of the band is number 1, to play such music to get the fans pumped up, to pump up the team. And of course, for the band purpose of being able to do their performance. I think allowing them to do it ahead of time and then allowing these parents, especially of the seniors, to be there to, support their kids. I think
So
is
for
a
the
good
band
idea.
members, though, the parents could not come watch that performance. It would be a live stream because the 55 would be 110. Plus,
And we'll
remember, we
have
already have our
to
players
put
in
it on.
there. We already have everyone in there. And we would exceed the
Hang on.
250.
How many band members are seniors?
What's that?
How many band members are seniors?
Seven, I believe.
So times 2, that would put us right at the 250.
That would then leave us there at 250. So we could do that potentially. We could look at that. So
I think
again,
it's worth
I
pursuing.
mean,
I don't know.
that's how it stands right now, the 250 and the 25. If that changes as we go down, I'll show you what Mr. Worley has proposed. So,
So like, my thought on the band is they're gonna get shortchanged because they're not gonna have an indoor concert. There's no way you can get that.
Yep.
You know, and a lot of it is about the students. Sure, the parents are a part of that, but you know, that's high school. That's all you're there for your classmates and schoolmates. And another alternative, if we've got, you know, as you said, 15 that are left, you know, there's to the season, there's what, 6 home games. You could split that up to, you know, like break it up into 4s, and everybody gets, you know, out of that, you know, the band, the cheerleaders, the football seniors are all able to go to at least one game, maybe it's 2. And that way it's a win for the students. The parents get to see their kids live at least once or twice.
so the challenge with that is we only have 3 home games. We only
Well,
have
you
6.
might get them once.
So they get 1 game. We have 6 games total for the season because of the shortened season. But we only have 3 of those games are home.
And maybe it's a flip there with, you know, you have some games, if there's 3, you know, that the band plays, and, you know, others that the parents go to. So with that, my concern would be that the band's gonna get shortchanged out of, you know, their concert.
So the band will be doing, obviously, I mean, if we do the before show, obviously they get their performance in there. Plus they are doing their competitions this year. And their competitions are gonna be done virtually. So what happens is they actually perform in our stadium. And obviously we can bring all the parents in for that because we won't exceed the 250. So we'll have, you know, the 110, you know, fans in there plus the 55 will be fine with there. And that will happen on a Saturday, you know.
But the band really won't get shortchanged because if they come to a football game, they're getting double what the.
So what typically has happened in the past is our band uses, whether it's the halftime show or the before, you know, that's their practice for their competition. They run through their, you know, they run through their show.
But if we did the before, it really opens it up. It really opens it up, and they still get their night in the spotlight.
Yep.
If they're going to do the competition.
And I will tell you, and you can even open it as a survey to the band members. They play songs throughout the game because they're told to play songs throughout the game. It is not because, you know, it's not the guy on the drums that starts it. It's the band director that tells the guy on the drums to start it. You know, so to your point, if they weren't able to do their show at all, I would totally agree with your statement. But I think having them sit in the stands to perform to no one is going to serve less of a purpose than allowing the parents of at least the seniors or whoever can get in there, you know, to be there to support.
That was my thought as well. But
Yeah, if they weren't able to do it at all, I would say do the band. But if we can do it before and allow the best of both worlds, I would think we would try to pursue that.
So I'll work with Mr. Worley tomorrow on that. We'll figure out what that looks like. We'll work with Mr. Campiano also on that. Because I know his suggestion was at least.
I agree.
Go ahead, Pat.
I'm sorry. I agree with Melanie. Why not throw it out to the band members and see what they say? Explain it to them. I mean, these kids are, you know, pretty mature in there. They might look at it like, you know, yeah, let's do it that way. We at least get to perform, and then some parents can come and see the children.
So
But I'd throw it out there to them and see what they say.
Okay, and that's what I'll do tomorrow. I'll meet with Mr. Worley, we'll meet with Mr. Campiano, and we'll figure out a plan. And to your point, though, the senior parents can come and watch the pregame show. The issue then for us is making sure that they exit. Because, you know, reality is then we're gonna have a line of 70 people ready to come in.
Well, it's just designate a part of the stadium for pregame.
Yeah,
They leave.
yeah, that's what I mean. So we'll figure all that exiting.
One entrance area, one exit area,
Yep.
you know.
So when we're looking at cross-country and tennis, due to the limited viewing area of these events and to maintain social distancing, we will allow 2 spectators per home team student athlete. So every athlete will get 2 tickets to come watch, you know, so the parents can come watch them in a tennis match. You know, they got to bring their own lawn chair or stand. We don't, you know, I mean, we won't have the stands and so forth like in a stadium. They got to be wearing a face covering. They got to maintain social distancing throughout the competition. And then after the event, they got to depart immediately. There's no hanging around. Just, you know, just so you're aware. Golf.
It's just kind of popped in my head. As far as contact tracing and fans, is there any guidance on that? So we're giving out tickets, but we don't know who they're going to.
So we do. So what will happen is, the way Doug has worked this is each game has a special ticket that will be given to the varsity athlete the day before the competition. That goes home to the parent. That ticket allows you to get onto our campus. And then once you bring that ticket to the ticket gate, and there you purchase your tickets to get in. So they'll take down with 70, you know, the name of the athlete, you know, we'll tell the athlete, put your name on that ticket. So we know who's purchasing.
So each ticket is worth 2 at the gate.
Yes.
So what about those parents that decide to come from and watch from outside the gate for especially?
Our campus will be closed. And we working with Eastern Island Regional Police, anyone that's on the campus without a ticket would be considered trespassing.
So the ticket's gonna have the attendee, because it may not always be the parent.
May not be, but that would be an issue that the varsity athlete and the parent would have to take up. Meaning like if an athlete does not give his ticket to the
I
parent.
think he means for the
For the
contact
contact
tracing.
tracing.
Oh,
They could
But
give
you would-
they could give their
but they would
ticket to
know
a
who-
grandparent to come to a game or.
Yeah, you might have to
you know,
go through
whatever
the athlete,
is
but I
what
would
he's-
think the athlete would know who was at.
That's
A
kind of why I
particular
was asking
game, yeah.
for the guidance, because, you know, so if there's an incident, right, I think we have to notify everybody. And we may not know
yes.
everybody that
Right.
Well,
is there.
and the nice thing is we had that roster. So when we start looking at the ticket, you know what I mean, as far as we can go down that list and start working our way back that way.
Right, yeah, my concern is just, you know, that's where, you know, what guidance have they provided? Because you can do that, but is that acceptable?
They are, so they haven't really provided us guidance. And
That's
then-
okay, that's.
The PIAA is all about sports. And then they go on to say, well, it's a local decision, you figure it out.
And that gives us room to figure out how we do it.
Yes.
So
So,
that's my question.
like I said, with cross-country and tennis, with golf, we'll adhere to the rules of the golf course, which you tend to be socially distanced anyway. It's very rare that you have a parent that goes to a golf match.
Yeah.
If they do, they're usually following their child around the 9 or 18 holes. And you don't ever really see a large group of people. It's not like watching, you know, a Sunday PGA tour and, you know, Luke Crayville on the 18th hole to win the Masters and you know, shanks it off to the right. So
Be more to the left.
yeah. So all other sports, in order to sufficiently remain below the capacity number and to help with social distancing, New Oxford will allow only home spectators to purchase tickets and enter home competitions. Each New Oxford student athlete will receive a card the day before, prior to an event, to give their parent and guardian. The card will entitle the holder to 2 admissions to the event. For events held in the stadium, spectators will sit in the bleachers minimum of 6 feet spacing between families. For events held in the multi-purpose field or grass field hockey field, spectators will bring their own lawn chairs or stand with a minimum of 6 between families. All spectators will be required to wear face coverings and depart following the conclusion of the competition. No group gathered.
So the person that has, so the 2 people have to come together in the same card.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Not-
because
Well,
how's the other person get the card?
So, well, they're gonna, or that, or you figure out as far as like, hey, I'm coming, I'll meet you here and I'll leave the ticket at the window or whatever.
But you said that the campus will be closed.
Campus will be closed, but, and the, you know,
So how
your
are
way to
they-
get on or in will be that ticket.
Right, but
Yeah,
if
but
you
the
are, if
second
you're not in the
person-
same car as me.
Yep.
And I have the card, how are you getting on campus?
No, you park and then you bring the card up to the ticket window.
No, but if they're having people at the entrance of the.
So if you're going in, Luke, right,
Yeah.
and say the other person's coming later, leave their name at the ticket window with that, and leave the ticket there. And then when they
So
come.
they can get on campus, they just can't get through the gates.
Because you said earlier campus will be closed.
Campus will be
unless they
closed.
have a
Campus will be closed.
Ticket.
Your ticket there. So if
So
a
it
person's
doesn't mean you can't get on campus, it just means that if
So what-
Eastern Adams comes rolling through and there's 14 of us standing outside the
Yep.
fence like this, then all 14 can be,
yes.
Okay.
So
so
then
we're taking our chances if we sneak on, is what you're telling us.
Well, they are, but the reality is that you're causing more of a problem because
Yeah.
what will happen is it gets to the point where we can't control it,
Mhm.
we'll just cancel athletics. And I don't want to say that mean, but I mean, reality is
No,
I have
these are the
responsibility.
questions that are gonna be asked, so, you
Yeah,
know,
well, and that's just, yeah, I mean, reality is, I'm not gonna say who, but I know for a fact that we have photographs, Mr. Worley photographed someone trying to sneak in to watch the football scrimmage, the inter-squad scrimmage, caught a parent sneaking around,
mhm.
Again, I get you want to see your child, I understand that, but, we have to do what we
So
can.
the other question that's gonna come up, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be one of the ones asking it, is for events like field hockey. If we have a maximum of maximum of 250, we have 40 players times 2, we're well under 200, let alone,
Yeah, why can't we get more?
why can't some of those smaller,
Again, we're keeping it
events.
consistent for every sport right now.
I agree with that. You gotta stay
I
level.
mean, at this point, I feel bad because volleyball has nobody.
Mhm.
And I mean, and I joke, but I don't joke, is that, because eventually that could become a Title IX issue,
right?
because, be ready. But in all seriousness, I mean, we're denying a female sport spectators. And it's a serious issue.
Mhm.
Now, will all the games be on this stream, YouTube? Is
Yes.
that everything?
Yep, we have, everyone
Okay.
will be there. We've run.
So I can tell my family to turn on this station
Yep.
and watch. Okay.
So, in addition to that, general guidelines, obviously, there will be no concessions. So there'll be no food, nothing like that. Again, spectators are required to wear face coverings throughout the event and to social distance. Any spectator seeking a medical exemption from wearing a face covering throughout the event must reach out to the school district, to Mr. Worley, 24 hours prior to the event to obtain permission. And that will be a doctor's note that needs to be submitted saying that you can't wear it due to blah, 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 blah. That we'll need to have that. There will be one entrance and exit for all venues other than tennis, cross country, and golf. Campus parking lots will be closed at 5 p.m. on nights of home varsity football games. Understanding that our playing areas are able to be viewed from outside gates, CVSD appreciates the continued support of our student athletes, but respectfully requests that any viewing take place through the live stream coverage at this YouTube channel. And will comply with all York Adams recommendations. There's a couple different forms that we have here that he references, but I think the important part here is the last page. And it goes into, and I'll go back here, but it goes into if House Bill 2787 passes, or it goes through somehow, we will maintain the fact that only home spectators are allowed. We will not accept away spectators, away team. For all sports except girls tennis, cross country, and golf, every student athlete and marching band member from the New Oxford programs will be provided a card to be given to a parent to obtain 2 admissions to an event. All senior athletes and band members will receive a card that will allow them 4 members to attend. Marching band will attend home football games only. Senior nights will occur prior to a specific competition. We'll stay under the 250s for all events except for varsity football, which would be larger to allow for participants to have 2 or 4 spectators attend. Tennis, cross country, and golf would be asked to keep to 2 spectators per person, 4 for senior athletes as well, but no card will be provided since there's no common entrance or gate area. So, and then Mrs. Sauter, to your question about, all right, so what does that mean? You know, so what happens is, like, there's, I guess, you know, when you look at the different things, so for football games or anything in the stadium, we're going to ask that you enter the new Oxford campus via the Oxford Road, turning right onto Ox Drive, and enter the roundabout behind the stadium where the teams should be dropped at the back gate and buses will remain parked. That's for our athletes. Game managers will meet the coach to receive the COVID screening acknowledgement. And then from there, you can see the process and procedure they go through about locker rooms and everything else. Games will be streamed via YouTube, and we'll put this YouTube link on the athletic page itself. So even outside, you know, away guests can access our YouTube page also if they choose to. Teams may utilize the scoreboard end zone for halftime meetings unless inclement weather forces them into the locker room. So that'll be something else that'll be a challenge if we did have a halftime show. Teams don't leave the field. So they're there while the band's playing. So even pregame, the coaches are going to be talking over a band show. You know, something to think about also. They talk about the soccer stadium, the field hockey stadium. Again, keeping, you know, if for some reason field hockey is not in the stadium, but right now I believe all field hockey games are in the stadium. The only ones that would not be would be junior high field hockey. We're going to put those on the practice field and by the baseball field. And I believe every soccer game is in the stadium except maybe 1 or 2 on the grass. So that's a gated area also.
Mhm.
So it's our hope that something comes out of it sooner than later that allows us to get our fans into the stands. But right now, I applaud Mr. Worley for coming up with all this. And really, I mean, I can tell you, we were last Wednesday's superintendent's meeting. The York Adams recommendation at that time was no fans for anybody, anywhere, period. And if we didn't follow that, our teams were penalized, meaning they would not be eligible to be division champions. They would not be eligible for district play or state play. So literally you would play your games and your season would be done if we violated the recommendation set forth by the York Adams Association. Superintendents, I guess they voiced their concern. And then the next day the athletic directors met, they voiced their concerns. And then, so they voted no to the plan. And so now then the YA said, fine, you come up with your plans, you present them next Wednesday, and we'll vote on. So this coming Wednesday, Mr. Worley will present this plan to York Adams. And we'll add the piece in there about the band playing before and getting them on and off. So they still have that option. Any questions on the plan that was submitted to you guys today to look at? I mean, we're trying to be as creative as possible. Our hands are tied right now just due to orders set forth by the state, but hopefully something will change here in the next. Great if it was the next couple of days before Friday's night's football game, but if not, at least before the next one before that then. Because I know we've also been getting pressure from local community TV outlets want to come in, but we're trying to explain to them, you come in, you count against the number. So the media has been like, well, what are we supposed to do? And we're like, again, if I can let 70 people in and I let 5 reporters in, now I can only let 65 in. So we're doing what we can, trying to be as creative as we can. And hopefully that will change here in the next couple of days and we'll get some better guidance
whether it be from York Adams, PIAA, or even the governor himself, moving forward on the House bill in some way, some fashion, so we know what can be expected.
Dr. Rudy, so the only feedback, and thank you for answering the questions, would be in the attestation of the COVID response, is just make reference of the roster, that it's there as a,
Yes.
as a package. I don't care what the format looks like, but
Yep.
the letter should reference that they're identifying who
Yes.
they're certified.
Okay, I'll let Doug know that, with the roster and the identification. Got it. Okay. If no other questions, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna stop the live stream, and we'll go into personnel for an executive session for personnel.
I'm sorry, I have to go.